All right, let's dive into one of the most powerful ideas in the digital world, conversion rate optimization, or as you'll often hear it called, CRO. This is all about the art and science of turning people who just visit your website into actual paying customers. Let's get right into it. So you've done the hard work, right? You've got traffic coming to your site. But does it ever feel like you're pouring water into a leaky bucket? People come in, but then so many of them just disappear without ever buying anything or signing up. It's a super common, super frustrating problem, but it's one we can definitely fix.
And the tool we use to fix that leaky bucket is CRO. At its heart, conversion rate optimization is really just the process of plugging those leaks. See, it's not about spending more money to get more traffic, it's about getting so much more value from the traffic you already have. It's about making it easier and more appealing for them to take that action you want them to take.
And when you get this right, the impact is, well, it's huge. When you start optimizing for conversions, your return on investment, your ROI, goes way up. It actually costs you less to get each new customer, and on top of that, you're creating a way better, smoother experience for them. And you can see where this is all going, right? All of these things lead straight to more revenue.
So how do we even measure this stuff? Well, the math is actually super simple. Your conversion rate is just the total number of conversions you get divided by the total number of visitors, then times 100 to get a percentage. So let's say 10,000 people visit your site and 500 of them convert. Bam, you've got a 5% conversion rate. Our whole goal with CRO is to nudge that number up.
Okay, so where in the world do we begin? It all starts right here, with step 1. We have to understand user behavior. Before you can improve anything, you first have to know what your visitors are really doing, where they're getting frustrated, and what they're actually trying to accomplish on your site.
First things first, we've got to be crystal clear on our goals. We have our big main goals. We call these macro conversions. Think a product purchase or someone filling out a contact form. But there are also all these smaller but still important goals along the way. These are our micro conversions, like getting a newsletter sign up or share on social media. They're all crucial little steps on that customer's journey.
To really get why people aren't converting, we pretty much have to see the website through their eyes. We can jump into Google Analytics to find the exact pages where they're giving up and leaving. We can use tools like Hotjar to create these amazing heat maps that show us exactly what they're clicking on and what they're totally ignoring. We can even watch recordings of their actual sessions. And you know, sometimes the easiest way is the best. Just ask them directly with a quick survey.
All right, so once we have all those juicy insights, we can finally move from just understanding to taking action. And that brings us to step 2, optimize and test. This is where we start making smart, targeted improvements, and this is the most important part, we test them to prove they're actually working.
You know, some changes can give you a boost almost immediately. These are the quick wins. Simplify your navigation menus. Seriously, cut down the number of fields in your forms. Every single extra field is just another reason for someone to give up. You'll also have to build trust with things like testimonials and security badges. And finally, your call to action, your CTA button, it has to be impossible to ignore and easy to understand. Something like Get Started Now works way better than just a boring old submit.
But here it is, the million-dollar question. You've got this great idea for a change, but how can you be absolutely sure it's better than what you had before? You can't just rely on a gut feeling. You need cold, hard data. And that, my friends, is where testing comes in.
This is where the real power of A/B testing comes into play. The idea couldn't be simpler. You create 2 versions of a page, an A version, which is your control, and a B version where you've changed just one single thing. Maybe it's a different headline like we see here. Maybe it's a new button color. Then you show each version to half of your audience and just see which one wins. You're not guessing anymore, you're testing.
The process itself is so simple and scientific. First, you pick just one thing to test. Then, you create your 2 versions. You split your traffic right down the middle 50-50. Then, you sit back and measure the results. Whichever version gets more conversions is your winner. And then, you roll out that winning version to everybody. The key here, and I can't stress this enough, is to be disciplined and only test one thing at a time.
And that brings us to our final step, because CRO is not a one-and-done kind of thing. It is a continuous cycle of learning, measuring, and always getting better. You never just set it and forget it. Now, to keep improving, you've got to track the right numbers. Your overall conversion rate, yeah, that's the big one. But a high bounce rate, that tells you your first impression isn't great. A low click-through rate means your buttons and links aren't exciting enough. And a high cart abandonment rate is a huge red flag that something in your checkout process is probably broken. Each one of these metrics is telling you a story.
So let's just pull this all together. Think of this as your CRO success checklist. First, define and track your goals. Next, optimize your pages with strong CTAs and a really clear design. Always run A/B tests to prove your ideas actually work. Keep working to improve site speed and the overall user experience. And most importantly, analyze how you're doing and then repeat the cycle. This is the engine that drives continuous growth.
And that brings us right to the end. I want to leave you with one final thought. A challenge, really. You don't need to do some massive, complicated overhaul to get started with this. Just think about everything we've talked about and ask yourself this one simple question. What is the one small change you could test on your site right now, today?